Hi, everyone. My name is Forrest Urban, and I'm manager of live invertebrates here at the Natural History Museum. And this is our Lunch with Live Animals presentation. And today we're talking about hair. This is part one of a two-part series that we're doing. I'm going to talk about invertebrate hair. Leslie's going to talk about vertebrate hair and what are the similarities and differences. And so, as you may know, as mammals, right? The hallmark of being a mammal means that you're covered in hair. We have hair on our head, we have hair all over our bodies, and invertebrates are usually coated in hair too, but it's a different type of hair. It's made out of something different than ours is. Ours is made out of keratin, and theirs is made out of chitin. So keratin-based hair is usually softer, more pliable, whereas chitin hair is tougher, it's brittle, it's stronger. And so let's look at some of the things that I brought for us to look at today. First thing I brought is probably the thing that you think of the most when you think of a hairy creature, especially a big hairy invertebrate, and that is a tarantula. So this is Green Bean. She's one of our pink-toed tarantulas. We named her a silly name like Green Bean because we were trying to be funny, but Green Bean is actually pink, and she's coated with these really beautiful, delicate looking pink hairs, but these hairs are actually pretty thick and strong compared to our hairs, and they serve all sorts of interesting functions. And so as a mammal, we use our sense organs, right? Like our eyes, our nose, our mouth, in order to smell and to see and to taste. Now, tarantulas use their hairs. We call an invertebrate hair setae or seta. And let's look at some of the ways that they use their hairs. Let me see if I can very carefully take a peek into this habitat here. This isn't really her habitat. We put her in here for a few minutes while we look at her more closely. So the tips of her toes are covered with hair. And then what's really interesting is her fangs are also coated with hair. So those are her fangs there. And all around her fangs, what looks like a mouth, and it is a type of mouth, is coated with red hair, right? And red is the universal warning color for back off, man. And so a tarantula will rear up on their back legs. She's kind of doing a handstand right now. But they'll rear up on their back legs in order to show you their fangs. And because their fangs aren't red, but all the hair around the fangs are red, that's their warning signal. And they use their hairs for all sorts of other functions as well. And let's look at some of those. This is a Mexican flame-kneed tarantula. They have their alternating color bands of red and black and red and black, again, as a warning coloration. But they also use these hairs to sense vibrations, especially when they're down in their burrows, because tarantulas can't see very well, but they can detect vibrations very, very keenly, just like a arboreal orb weaver can. And so they can detect vibrations. They can also smell with these hairs and taste a little bit too. We're going to talk about tasting more when we get to some of the other animals. And so let's look at some of the ways that tarantulas use their colors. Well, first, let's back up for a second and look at some of their hairs more closely. And so tarantula hair, they have the middle fiber, but then attached to the middle fiber, they have all of these barbs that come out from the middle fiber, which make them very, very tricky, especially if you were to get one stuck into your skin or your mouth or your eyes. And so what a tarantula does is they'll take one of their hairy back legs and rub it across their hairy abdomen and flick the hairs as a defense mechanism. And so these barbed hairs, right, can stick into your skin, and then it's really hard to pull them out because it's not just like pulling out a straight hair. They have all these these attaching barbs that get stuck into your skin. And so let's see here. You can look at what a tarantula looks like once they've lost all their barbs. And it causes kind of this balding pattern on their abdomen. So you can tell when a tarantula is being defensive, when it has that classic or that characteristic balding patch, if you will. But they can replace those hairs. They don't grow back, but they'll replace the hairs when they molt, right? And so when a tarantula needs to grow bigger or replace a leg, they will flip over on their back and carefully pull themselves out from their old exoskeleton and form a new exoskeleton. When they do that, they can generate all their body hairs, especially those urticating hairs that they've flicked off as a defense. Now, tarantulas aren't known to be able to detect color very well, but a recent study has shown that they think some tarantulas can actually detect color. And it's these tarantulas that are this color pattern, this vibrant blue and purple. They're called, one common name is the cobalt blue tarantula from Southeast Asia. They think that they can see each other's colors, and that's how a mate will find another mate. So that's really interesting. Oops. I do have a cobalt blue tarantula here, but I couldn't get it to show up very well on camera. And so I brought some of these other ones. Other spiders that use color very, very keenly are jumping spiders. And so jumping spiders aren't nearly as big as tarantulas, but they're also coated in hair. And here's one that you see, it's pretty obvious front hair, but the bottom of their feet are also coated in hair. And that helps them to hold on to vertical surfaces. So they can even walk up and hold on to slick surfaces like glass or plastic. And so here's a jumping spider here. And because the bottom of its feet are coated in hairs, kind of like this is a brush, and the brush has all of these hairs attached to it. That's exactly what a jumping spider foot looks like. Right now they have 8 feet. And so each one of these feet is coated with these hairs, which essentially turns 8 feet into thousands of feet. That makes them incredibly sure-footed. So they have the amazing ability to scale pretty much any surface and hold on. Not even more than hold on, they're just super agile about it. Okay. Other ways that they use their hairs, right? Jumping spiders have really, really excellent vision, one of the best visions known in the animal kingdom. And so they have all of these eyes, 2 big forward-facing eyes, another 2 here on the side, so another pair on the back, and even some on the very top of their head. So they can see in all directions at once. They can detect depth, and they can detect colors, not only just the colors that we see, but colors in other parts of the spectrum. So they can see in far red, they can see in ultraviolet, colors that we can't detect. And that helps them with what's called mate recognition. And so a jumping spider, let me see if I can make this bigger. A jumping spider will spring up a portion of its back, which is covered in these beautiful blues, reds, yellows, and blacks to form a very specific pattern. And they will dance around, waving their arms and tapping their legs to create kind of a rhythm. And they do all this. This is a male. Males do all this in order to attract females. And so it's really hilarious if you were to watch one of these videos. And I think in the future, when we get to Spider Pavilion, we'll probably do a segment just on jumping spiders, how they used all of these amazing colors of the hair on their body to attract a mate. It's kind of like us using fashion and changing our hairstyle to become more attractive to ourselves and to other people. It's kind of akin to that, except theirs is genetically programmed in. They didn't have to go to the stylist. They didn't have to go get their hair cut or dyed or anything. It's just naturally this way. And so it's something that's evolved over thousands of years for them to just have naturally. And they also know how to do this song and dance number naturally. They don't have to go to a dancing school or anything like that or be taught by anybody. They just are natural dancers. So I think that's pretty hilarious examples of how jumping spiders use their hair. Some other things that have amazing hair are butterflies and moths. And so butterflies and moths, especially moths, they can't see very well, but they use the hair that are attached to their antenna. They're kind of like feathers to actually smell, and they can smell really, really well. One male moth is known to be able to smell a female moth from miles and miles away. And so this is a moth from our collection called an Atlas moth. It's one of the largest species of moths. And if you look right up here, this is where the antennae are. And so they use these antennae to smell. And because they have so many feathers, that increases the surface area. It's like us having thousands of noses attached to our face. Really helps them to smell for far, far away. So a female will be emitting like a perfume, like a pheromone, and the male, without a map and in the dark, will be able to find her location from 2 miles away. That's incredible, right? And they do it just with their nose because they can't see hardly at all. They also have all of these colors on their body, on their wings. And those are also hairs that are modified into scales to create this color pattern. Up here at the top, this part kind of looks like a snake. And so you'll see them in nature kind of undulating like a snake as a form of defense. And then they can also camouflage in with these brown tones as well. So they have a lot going on. Now, before a moth becomes a moth, it's a caterpillar. And this is a woolly bear caterpillar. And woolly bear caterpillars are known to be really, really hairy and prickly. And so what they'll do is use these hairs as a defense mechanism from, say, birds or things that would like to eat them. Because who wants to bite down on something that is full of these stiff, barbed hairs and get that in their mouth, right? That would be terrible. And then in addition, they also will coil up into a tight ball just to make sure that if you're going to bite down on me, it's going to be the worst experience possible. And then if something does bite down on them, the likelihood that they'll probably get spit out, right? And then they'll be fine. They'll be able to escape and survive. As an adult, the woolly bear caterpillar turns into what's called a tiger moth. And here's what a tiger moth, adult moth, looks like. You can see all of those colors that it's exhibiting. Those are modified hairs that create that amazing color pattern. And then their bodies are also still hairy, right? Because moths are active at night when the temperature is lower. And we can look at the adult here more closely. So this is the moth of the adult, and you can really see the feathery antenna. Fancy word for that is plumose. You see how fuzzy their body is. Right, the special adaptation just for smelling. And then in addition to that, on the bottom of their feet for tasting, they have specialized hairs so when they land on something, they can actually taste it through the bottom of their feet with their specialized hairs. Amazing, right? But how would you like to be able to taste with the bottom of your feet? From our perspective, it probably wouldn't be all that pleasant. Now, the last thing I'd like to show you, which you probably don't consider to be hairy at all, really, just to our naked eye, are scorpions. So scorpions are also, if you look really closely, you can see a lot of hairs going on, right? Scorpions can't see very well, so they do use hairs to detect what's going on in the environment, but especially on the backside where they have these feathery-like structures here called pectanes. And so they're modified combs and they're like teeth, but inside of all of those combs and teeth are hairs for detecting smell and vibration and taste, right? So hairs are amazing. And next week, next Thursday at the same time, we will be with Leslie and she'll show us all the amazing adaptations that reptiles and amphibians and mammals have with hair. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And we look forward to all your questions and comments. Thank you so much, guys.